So what are some of the challenges to job hunting? You know, we've already kind of looked at here, what are the challenges in the interview process? Well, there's more challenges for the neurodiverse getting employed than just the interview process. And some of the challenges are, you start with, it's not uncommon for people that are neurodiverse to have less than an ideal resume. And I happen to be a perfect example of that. I have what most people, and probably you would consider when you're looking at it also, a spotty resume. I tend to work lots of very short-term jobs, which normally that's considered a bad sign. Well, there's two reasons for my resume looking that way. One is I've been doing consulting, and my preference is to do short-term, high-difficulty jobs because A, I like the challenge, and B, they pay better. So that's part of why I have a lot of turnover on my resume. But the other part is, as I started out, that wasn't the only time I've been fired. So I have a bunch of turnover also because of the issues of keeping a neurodiverse person employed, which we're going to go over some of those also. So that gives a weak resume. Another reason often that they have a weak resume is if they have difficulty interviewing. They may have graduated from the finest institution with just top grades in the exact field you need. But if they can't get through the interview process, you go work where you have to. So they have Starbucks on there. They have jobs that are well below their capacity. But again, when you get an interview, you get a resume and you're looking for somebody in the technology field, and you see all they've done is Starbucks and some low-level kind of jobs. That's not the candidate that you think is going to have what you need. So that's one of the struggles, is the resumes are weak. Another struggle they have is they don't understand what the goals are in the interview. Now, it would seem like it should be pretty straightforward to figure out what the goal of the interview is. The goal of the interview is to get a job. But the problem is there's not clarity of what is required to get that job, because the neurodiverse person is thinking the way the neurodiverse person thinks, which is not the way that the neurotypical person, which again, we said that's what most people are. So most of the interviewers who aren't technical people are on the other side. And to give an example of unclear goals, when I started working on Geek's Guide to Interviews, I got a bunch of my buddies and we went out for lunch. And these are all people in the technology world. They're all very, very, very good, as a matter of fact, quite high level. And we just went around the table and I asked them, what is it that you have the greatest challenge with when you're interviewing? And there was one answer I got that just explains this one so well. And what he said was, I just struggle with trying to get the non-technical people to understand the level of my skills. Well, is that the goal? I mean, when you think about it, why is he trying to convince a non-technical person how phenomenally good he is at tech when the normal interview process is you get a tech interview. That person signs off and says, yes, they have the qualifications. Then you go into the business people and they say, yes, we like them, they can work with them, all those things. So trying to convince the business people that you're a great technologist is a waste of the time, because that's not what they want to hear. They believe their tech person that already interviewed you was correct, that you have the skills, because they can't judge anyways. They're not technologists. So unclear interview goals. He's trying to convince them how great he is instead of telling them how much he would enjoy working there and loves the challenge and what the company does, which would be a much better answer to get through most interview processes. Then poor social communication skills. And this one kind of hits in some interesting and unusual ways. One of the first ways that it really affects is most people have a network. So when they're out job searching, you've got a network. You've got, in your cases, you've gone to school with a bunch of people. Some start getting jobs in places. You reach out to your friends and you say, hey, is there any openings there? Can you give me an introduction? Can you get my resume to somebody? As you get further in your careers, you have people, they move to companies, you stay in touch and you build that network up. Well, us on the neurodiverse side, first off, if we've got a short resume, we haven't had the chance to build that. Secondly, we have a tendency that our friends are the people we're working with. And when we change jobs and go off to another job, that's it. That's our new group of friends, and we don't stay in touch with the old ones. It's not that we didn't like them, but out of sight, out of mind kind of is the way it works for us. So they have a real small network to draw upon. Poor answers. This would be something such as, you ask, do you know how to do XYZ program? And again, this is a business person. They don't want, great detail, but they're just asking the question, do you know how to do this program? Because we use it. And very frequently from somebody who's neurodiverse, you're going to get an answer that is either yes or no. End of answer. Well, if it's yes, you got at least a little something to go on. But if it's no, you just assume the person probably doesn't have qualifications. But what if they learned the strategy to answer of saying, no, I don't know XYZ, but I know PDQ, which is the biggest competitor, and works about the same way, so I'm sure I could learn ABC real fast based on my skills with PDQ. Is that going to play better in an interview than saying no? I think so. And another one that really trips up is, it's not uncommon for people who are neurodiverse, which also is common in people who are not neurodiverse. And that's where, again, the cloud, because these things are not only in one place or the other. And it's long processing time. And it's just more common amongst the neurodiverse than amongst neurotypicals. And by long processing time, what I mean is, how many times have you been in a situation where you have an interaction with somebody and you go away and 10 minutes later, the perfect idea of how you should have answered or what you wish you said comes to you? Well, if that's how you process the world normally, great. You come up with the perfect answer for the interview after you've left the interview and you just had a crappy one when you were at the interview. So that's another huge process. Problem of getting through the job hunt is, if you have that type of person who needs to think through, and then you could write the world's best white paper on it, that's not going to get you through an interview very well.